Welcome to Van Tate's Sports Office, an in-depth look at the world of sports, featuring exclusive interviews with our KRQE News Sports Director Van Tate, sponsored by Caesars Sportsbook at Route 66 Casino.
It's time to talk a little football and other sports because we have the athletic director and head coach of the Cueva Bears football team in here today, Brandon Back. And Coach, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us. We love being a part of you and what you guys do for high school athletics. We love coming down here and getting the opportunity to talk about high school athletics in the state of New Mexico and Albuquerque, so we're excited to be here.
Yeah, you're like a regular here, Coach.
I know. I should get a parking spot at this point, right?
Well, your programs, they win so many times in different sports. How do you keep that kind of consistency?
You know, for me, managing a program and also being over the top of a lot of those programs on the campus, for me, it's just making sure that we have the good coaches in the right spot, that our kids are doing what they need to do to give them the opportunity to be successful on the field, and just try to do our best to get out of our own way. It's kind of the thing. So, you know, it's a daily grind sometimes when you got to work with these kids, and it's a daily lesson that we got to teach them, but we're blessed and we're excited about the kids that we have and the community that we serve, and so it's a fun place to be. It's challenging, but it's fun.
Now, you guys, you finished runner-up in Class 6A this year in football, which is your part of the thing. How much of a grind is it, you know, like looking back on you being AD and head football coach, you said the word grind and made me think about how much of a grind is it for you to wear those multiple hats?
It's definitely a grind, and it would not be a possible grind if it wasn't for the staff that I have. You know, I'm blessed with some great coordinators and assistant coaches on the football side of things that really do a good job of taking some things off of my plate. Right. I trust them to do their job. Coach Marcelli is our offense coordinator. Coach Hurley is our defensive coordinator. And then behind them, we also got guys who as talented and can be coordinators too, Coach Elabadio and Coach Perea on the defensive side. So we're blessed with some really great coaches that help me take care of some of those football-related things when I need to. There are times when it's time to just do football, and I make sure that I'm 100% committed to that. And then when it's not time to do football, I got to make sure that I'm doing the other things right by the other sports. But without a good staff like I have, it wouldn't be a possible opportunity.
Well, speaking of good staff and the football part of it, you guys have seemed to be in that championship conversation. You know, going to the championship game multiple times in a row and winning. You're 2 years removed from that championship. How do you get it back again this year? Like, what do you do, like, to let people know what you got coming back from last year's runner-up team? How do you get back to that game?
You know, it's hard when you graduate a talented class like we graduated. And it's kind of one of those razor's edge things where sometimes you got to look back and change some things that worked with a different group and moving forward, make some adjustments. And then you also got to find the things that have worked and been in place that continue to build on. So that's a razor's edge for us. I love change. I love the chaos it creates. I feel like we work well in that situation. But there's also some foundational things that we've done with our staff that really allow us to build on things and build on things early. So we're excited about the group coming back. You know, we got a lot of questions to answer. We're going to have a bunch of new faces. But we're excited about the kids and how hard they've been working and the chance that we're going to have to display our talents in the fall. Yeah,
3 Division I guys leaving at the multiple positions there. You got, you know, like starting with your quarterback, Cam Dyer. You know, those are some big shoes to fill.
Those are definitely Cam and Mason and Mark Handy. Those are our three-headed monster we had these last few years. So, you know, you don't replace them. You know, you give an opportunity to another guy to make his name and to make his stamp on that program. And so for us, that's been a big part of it. We're not looking for another Cam Dyer because there's not another Cam Dyer. We're not looking for another Mason Posta because that one doesn't exist. What we are looking for is great linebackers, great quarterbacks, great receivers, great offensive linemen. Give those guys the opportunity to make a name for themselves and to put their stamp on this program. And if we give them that chance and we coach them right and mentor them in the right way, I think we'll be successful as well.
I'm sure you're going to miss Mason Posta blowing up some of those plays.
He's different, man. Those cats were different. You know, I've never seen a group of kids that have been such great kids on the field and off the field, a large number of them. You know, I tell Cam all the time, you know, you should be a lot more arrogant than you are. You know, he walks around, he's one of the most humble kids. Mason, you know, those kids will say, talk to anybody. They're great in the hallways. Those are things that you can build on. Those are things that you want to take away from great athletes because athletic talent comes and goes, but great boys, great young men, those are hard to find sometimes.
They got it figured out, man. That humility helps them to prosper.
100%. And it's kept them healthy. It's kept them in a situation where they're motivated and hungry, and I think that's going to play well for them at the next level as well.
And when you talk about all the new faces you got coming back, anybody stand out that that you're probably going to be relying on?
Well, I think the big name that we have coming back is Tanner Montano. He's a track star, very, very fast. He's already getting some looks, especially from the in-state guys and whatnot. And so he's putting on some good numbers here in the track season, early in this track season. So he's going to be a big part for us. I think our running back room is really, really strong. We returned 3 of the 5 starting linemen, which is a big deal for us. Quarterback obviously is going to be something to fill. But on the defensive side, we're going to have a lot of guys who can fill in specific positions. Jet Kinghorn will play safety for us, and he's lightning fast and can tackle. So these guys are excited. They're excited about their turn. Our motto this offseason and coming into this season is our turn. We're talking about our turn right now. We're not talking about last year or the year before. We've been blessed the last 3 years to be in the state championship. But right now it's our turn. It's our turn to make a name. It's our turn to put some points on the board and see how that goes. So we're excited about that chance.
Well, this past season, you guys got a chance to show Arizona what the Cueva Bears football is about. Talk about that, man. Going on the road, winning in Arizona, and getting out of state, because usually New Mexico high schools, unless you're on that Texas border, you're not really crossing that.
It's really been a blessing. Adrian Ortega he's been there the last few years. He's the athletic director for the entire district, and he's really the one that started that initiative. And what he wanted to give APS schools is just the same opportunity that other schools in the state have. If you can fundraise, if you can get the funds together, and you have an opponent, you should have that opportunity to cross the state border. And so he's done a great job of that. We've had great APS schools. Atrisco Heritage dance team went to nationals the last few years, so they got an opportunity to leave the state. Wow. Albuquerque High basketball got to go to Alaska to play. Right. We got the chance to go to Arizona. So there's been a lot of APS schools that's taken advantage of it, but it's a great opportunity for our kids to measure up against states, because we are overlooked in our state. We're a small state. And a lot of schools don't think that we have that same type of caliber of player, but we got that chance to step up and show that we did. It was a heck of a game, winning in double overtime. So it was an exciting game against a very, very strong powerhouse football in Phoenix. So those are great things for the states, great things for the district, and I think it's just a great way to display our kids' talents.
The conversation is just getting started. We have more on the other side.
And I think that you just hit something on the head as far as New Mexico is overlooked when it comes to talent in multiple sports. And when you get out there, if you stay within your own borders and you don't get out there, they don't know how they're going to know. So it's overlooked, and it's almost by choice of the state when we don't have people go out.
Right. And it really gives our recruiting a better opportunity, I think. You look at states like Texas and California. If you're a college in those states, you don't have to leave your own border to find the same kids. But it gives you the opportunity to find a kid that's overlooked and kind of get a diamond in the rough, if you will, a kid that you can pull. But what it gives us is just a bigger platform, to show our kids, to show the people around our region that we got kids who can play at all sports and all levels, and we're excited about that.
And when I'm thinking about recruiting, I'm thinking about the transfer portal for college. And how much do you think it hurt high school recruiting? Because it's these guys are just shopping the portal, and you get somebody who has experience, who at least, even if they didn't play at their respective colleges, they've been in those practices, and they're going to be more polished than some kid coming out of high school.
Yeah, it's a different bird. It's decimated high school recruiting is what it's done, especially in football. I think basketball as well, men's basketball especially. I heard a guy talk on social media last summer, and he was saying that he was giving a coaching clinic in the state of Ohio, and he was talking about how the year before they had 168 kids go to large Division I schools in the state of Ohio. Yeah. That next year, when the portal opened and changed everything, they went down to like 70-something kids. So even a state that's got a ton more schools than we have, it's just really, it's decimated that. And if you look at it from, college, I think Coach G at UConn said it the best. Let's just stop pretending. It's a business. College athletics is a business. And if you're running a business, are you going to take a chance on an 18-year-old kid that you don't know anything about, hasn't really fully matured, his body hasn't matured, or are you going to take a kid from the portal who's got a couple years of film and has played at that level? They're making business decisions, and that's unfortunate that it has turned into that. But it's changed the landscape for high school recruiting, and so you're going to see a lot of more guys going into junior college level with the new Pavia rule. You're going to see a lot more guys going to NAIA schools, because if they go to either of those schools, their clock doesn't start. Yeah. So it's really a better decision for them to do that. But even now, I talk to every coach that comes through, and they say they spend most of their time just recruiting their own team. because their team might not be there the next year. They might not even be there the next semester. So it's really hurt high school recruiting. And we're all kind of hoping, the genie's never going to get put back in the bottle, but we're hoping that there's some sort of common sense that gets applied to all this, because it's the Wild West out there right now, man. And it's going to be they wanted to do it for the haves and the have-nots to be more balanced, but that scale is tipped completely, and that's not what it is. I mean, look at the NCAA. We got 4 number ones playing in there. We don't have the Cinderella schools anymore. We don't have those things, and so you get schools like your group of 5 schools in football. They got to spend as much time just recruiting their own locker room as they do recruiting the region. So it's definitely changed some things, and we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be very hard for high school athletics.
I guess it could be worse, but we have a young man from New Mexico who made it better for the high school kids coming out, because at least they'll get all their years if they go to a JUCO. Yeah. That's Diego Pavia.
They'll get their years back. He definitely did make a change. I mean, if you're not a 4 or 5 star guy, why would you not go to a junior college and get a year, mature, get some film, and then your clock starts? You're going to make more money over the long run.
The NIL money.
The NIL money, and now with the collectives and the paying out based on how much the sports are bringing in, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame.
I think at some point it might even filter down to high school. Like, you might have some people with deep pockets paying for kids to come play.
We're in the state of New Mexico. We allow student athletes to have NIL deals, and so that is already existing in our state. Texas doesn't allow that.
I'm talking about high school.
High school athletes can have NIL.
Okay, see, I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, Bella Hines, she signed.
Oh, that's right. You know what?
She signed
I guess
that
I knew that, but wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Because I remember her Jordan deal. She had the first one. So you're right. Yeah, I just wasn't thinking about that, but you're right. That's
so it's that's a unique niche here. But Texas, from what I understand, Texas is looking to change that rule. Quinn Ewers went to Ohio State because of that rule. He wasn't allowed as a high school kid to have an NIL deal. He already had a company signed up with, and so he went to Ohio State so that he could sign that contract, and then he came back after his first year. So high school athletics is going to get I hope it doesn't. I really don't. I think the purest form of the sports that we play is in high school. I think that's
already there,
purest form, and I love what it brings to the table. And I hope we never get to that point, but it's a different world, that's for sure. And you played college athletics. You should be jealous of all these guys.
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, you're like, you couldn't even get a bagel with cream cheese, and now these guys are walking in, and walk-ons get all kinds of stuff that nobody ever got before. Yeah. So it's a different world, but it is what it is, and we'll just have to play it as it goes.
What threw me on Bella's deal is that she's at ABC Prep, and I separated her from just regular high school. And you're right. I remember when they approved that. Yeah. And I'm just thinking that the more it goes, unless they handle it some kind of way, they're gonna probably ruin college athletics, because the fans, even with some of the players leaving, even around here and stuff like that, I've never. In the almost 32 years doing this in this state, I don't remember people commenting so much that, you just ripped my heart out again. I'm out. And so when you lose the fans, that's it. Well, Game over.
I've told everybody, you can have a bad record in college athletics as long as you have fans in the stands. But you lose fans in the stands and your record's not that great, you're out the door. And then we're paying buyouts, and we're paying it's a messy world. But and it's a shame that we lose that opportunity where we have a kid who comes in here 1 or 2 years and they're out. But it's the nature until the NCAA kind of figures it out, and they're not very good at figuring things out quickly. So if they can do that, I heard some guy talk forever. The NCAA died on the hill of amateurism. And, that's clearly gone out the window. And now they're dying on the hill of, we can't make them employees. Well, there's employees all over every university. So nobody really knows what's going to happen, but it's at some point it's got to get cleaned up pretty quickly before.
And I wonder what that would do with high school sports again. If they do fix it, I don't know what they're going to do with, the transfer portal and the NIL deals, but I wonder how that's going to affect high school sports coming down the road, because, like you said, the genie is out of the bottle. And I just think that as far as when you mentioned going to a JC and getting better and then starting your clock, I think that's here to stay.
Yeah, I think that is too. And I think I kind of in line with that. Those kids that are at that level, they're there for a couple of reasons. One of them is that they're just not ready. They're just not ready, you know, especially with boys. Some of those boys just mature a little bit later, and a year of extra preparation does them wonders. So I think I'm in support of that. I do like that, but what it did is it's really going to hurt Division II schools because their clock starts if you go to a Division II school, but it does not start if you go to a junior college. So I think those things, they didn't really think those things through, but these lawsuits, these are all the result of a lawsuit. So these lawsuits get thrown out right and left and injunctions, and I think it spins faster than people can kind of keep up with it. So it's a process. It's going to be, I tell my brother's an attorney, I tell him all the time, forget all the other stuff. You should get into this game because this game seems to be where the money's at. So, but it's going to be an interesting time for high school athletics. But we're excited about that chance for our kids to get to play at the next level, and we'll do whatever we need to do to give them that chance.
Stay with us. More conversation on the other side.
We'll get back to the episode in a moment. Monica Wicki here, host of New Mexico Living. I wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Route 66 Casino and Caesars Sportsbook. If you love sports and like having a little action on the game, Caesars Sportsbook is your go-to destination. For rewards and more info, go to Route66Casino.com. Now back to the episode.
Do some of the kids come to you for advice and like, hey, coach, should I take this? You know, because even if this was available, like the JUCO thing, like I remember growing after high school, growing almost 6 inches.
Right. Yeah, you know? That's exactly
so,
what, especially with boys. It happens all the time. David Robertson, I think, is probably the classic example. He got to the Naval Academy, and I think he grew like a foot or something.
Yeah.
Couldn't fit in on submarine. And so it's one of those things where I think that's a good thing for those things. But, yeah, we do get athletes that ask us for advice all the time on what they should do. And I try to tell them, you know, there's a difference between playing at the next level and somebody coming to your door and giving you money to play at the next level.
Yeah.
Those guys are few and far between. But for the overwhelming majority of them, if you want to play college sports, there's a place to play. You're gonna have to knock on those doors yourself. You're gonna have to put in a lot of work yourself. But there's a place to play. So if you really have a heart for it and you really are excited about it, go play. You know, in our state, we got 5 places that play most sports. Yeah. You know, not including New Mexico Junior College that doesn't play football but does play baseball and other sports. So there's a lot of opportunities for kids to play, but it's what they don't realize. It's not a game anymore. It's a job. It's really a job. I think the purest form of the game is in high school, like I said, and they got to get used to that job aspect of it.
You being an AD, you must be walk around with your chest stuck out when you think about your baseball team also.
No, because I didn't do anything to help them. You know, that's I like to sit back and watch the great coaches that we have. You know, Amber Ashcraft, our girls soccer coach, is one of the best in the Southwest. She's been doing it since 1997. Yeah. And I think she's at like 12 state championships or something like that. So for me as an athletic director, I believe that leadership is about service and how can I serve them? How can I give them the opportunities so that they can do the right thing? I don't know a lot about baseball, so I sit in the dugout and I yell at everybody else along with Coach Pineda and chew sunflower seeds, and I just get the opportunity just to be a part of something and to watch something special. But you get guys like Dylan Blomker and Burdette and Reynolds, and you get to see those athletes come through, just like I got the chance to see Mason Posa and Cam Dyer. It's fun to walk around the halls and see those type of kids and watch what they develop. So that for me as an athletic director, my job is to serve these programs and to do the best I can so that they have that chance and celebrate when they get an opportunity to win.
So you're saying that they bake the cake and you just come back for
100%,
a slice?
100%. I'm gonna get a little slice, but I'm gonna get a T-shirt. That's what I want.
Any exciting things you got coming up for your football team this year? Like I know you played out of state. Going back to that, you played out of state last year. Are you guys thinking about doing that again? And if so, where are you going?
We're definitely going to have that as part of our budget, so that we're always trying to raise money for it. This year, in fact, Pinnacle is going to come back up to us. So they're going to come up here, which is an exciting game for us. So the second game of the season, Pinnacle from North Phoenix, right at the edge of Scottsdale, they're going to come up and up to Albuquerque. So we get the opportunity to host them, which I think is also exciting for this year. And then next year, we'll see what's available to us, but we would like to continue that trend of playing one team out of state and just to leave, just to give that boys that experience and that opportunity and to see what other states look like. But we're excited for that chance, and so we're looking forward to playing them in the second week of the season.
Do I sense maybe a game with Odessa Permian in the future?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe we'll get a book deal out of it somewhere. It's we've part of the putting on the AD hat. One thing I didn't realize when I got this job is how different states schedule things. Scheduling a Texas team in football is very difficult because they don't make their schedules till April, and we make our schedules in February. And so those, lining those pieces up and getting those puzzle pieces together is definitely a challenging aspect of it. Arizona, I don't know if most people know this, but high school athletics works on a 2-year block. So when you schedule, you're really scheduling for 2 years. And Texas is on the same rotation as us, but Phoenix isn't. Arizona's not. They're on the other year. So we're blessed to work with Coach Z from Pinnacle because he committed to us, even though that kind of makes his schedule a little bit more difficult to fill. So we're excited about that. We're excited about hosting him and his teammates and whatnot. So, but it's a different bird when you're trying to schedule out of state. There's a lot of puzzle pieces that you don't think about.
So, that team's coming from out of state, coming from Arizona. Do you do anything differently as far as the presentation? Like you guys, anything special that you're going to do just for the game, just because they're coming? It's just like you got a guest coming from out of state.
Right. We try to, it's a little bit more difficult when you don't have your own home stadium. In APS, we share 3 community stadiums, so that makes things a little bit more challenging. For us, it's just trying to give them whatever they need so that their trip goes as planned. And so as the season gets closer, we'll talk to Coach Z and see what he needs to, if he's coming up that day, if he's flying in the night before, one of those things, we'll help him kind of navigate those things. But as far as the game goes, we just try to bring a lot of student enthusiasm, get our fan base up as much as possible so that it's a good atmosphere, so we represent Albuquerque well. I'm sure they'll be asked red or green 8,000 times once they get off the plane and things like that. But those are things that we just want to be as hospitable as we can and have a good Friday night game.
You know how you do that, man? You just have the juice boxes ready.
Right, just ready. Here you go. If it's red, it's toilet paper. If it's green, it's water. And that's just the way it works. So,
hey, Coach,
it's a different bird.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Coach Brandon Beck, head coach of the Cueva Bears football team, also the athletic director at Cueva, is doing a great job over there. We're going to see this guy a lot during football season, as we always do. Thank you, guys. Until next time, Fernando Perez behind the controls. We'll see you later.